Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's Manhar here. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the one funnel that we ran for a client that helped him generate $20,000 this month. Now, before I get into this funnel and breaking everything down, I do want to set the stage and tell you guys who we worked with, but I'm not going to name drop here. I don't want to give the exact information so that you guys don't end up funnel hacking him because I know I would. So without that, let's set the stage. Now, for context, we did end up working with a fitness coach who helped with speeding fat loss, building lean muscle, and healthy habits building. And the guy you see on the screen is not our coach. He's just a random guy I found on Google, but I'm not going to share all that information with you guys. So before we actually came on into the business, there are a couple key metrics that this client did have. He had okay engagement. He had the okay amount of clients. But what we did notice is he had a very shit funnel. And when I say shit, I mean shit. Like, this is what I mean. He had a type form in his bio, which a lot of coaches and creators do nowadays. And he just was doing manual outreach from there to the guys that actually had decent responses in the type form. Now, there's a couple things wrong with this funnel. Firstly, you're doing a lot of stuff by yourself. You're spending unnecessary energy into the business, whereas you can delegate these tasks to someone else and conduct higher level overview on the business itself. Okay. The other thing we saw a problem with was the people that were submitting the Typeform responses. If they did not have good responses, we did still need to target them and nurture them so that in the end, we could still get some conversions from there, which I was not seeing in this funnel. That's why it was shit. So now that that's clear, let's get into the funnel itself and how we help this client generate $20,000. Now I'm gonna start a little backwards here. Usually I show you guys the traffic first and then I get into the other components, but I'm gonna give you guys what you came for first. I'm gonna show you guys this funnel we ran for this client and then I'll get into the other components. But we did run up a split test for this client and I'll show you guys split test number A that we ran and then I'll show you guys B. We were pretty much using a landing page in the bio that we ran for the client. You'll see three components that we used here. We used the headline, which is the offer statement. Then we were running a VSL video to kind of warm up the audience and tell them on what we're offering. And then right under that, we had a CTA to an application form, which pretty much had qualifying questions. And depending on if they were actually qualified, we would run them further down through the funnel to actually book up a call with us. Or if they did not qualify, then we would downsell them into something else so that they nurture over time. The reason why you guys want to do downsells in the first place is because, yes, these guys cannot work with you right now one-on-one. They cannot work with us high ticket, but we can get them a small win. We can get them started in on the process because these guys do have an existing problem and they need a solution for it. If you guys do not offer it to them, they'll go to someone else. They'll go to your competitors. They'll find a solution. So we still do want to end up offering them something, whether that be a low ticket offer or a mid ticket offer. And that's exactly what we did here. We ran up a low ticket offer and we were getting a couple people through the gate from there to get started up on the journey. Now, the second part of this funnel, let's just say we had a high ticket prospect come through the gate. They would end up booking a call with us, which would most likely be a closer, or me. I was in there for a little bit as well. But right under this section, we had a whole scroll page of just testimonials, pictures, videos, interviews that we did with clients, because our coach had a lot of case studies. So it's really, really easy to get people to trust us. And that's why we use this on this section, because we were getting them to do an action for us. So we just wanted to build a little bit more trust here. And then the third part of this section, we just had a simple confirmation page, which was just a video of expectations, setting the stage, getting them excited for the call, and boom, that's it. That's all we were running. Now with this alone, we were doing like 10K a month, which isn't a lot, but at the time for the coach and us, it was quite a lot of money. And we were like, okay, it's working, but we need to improve the system. And that's where I started running up split test number B. So for split test number B, what we did was a very similar layout, but it ended up literally making double the money that we were already making while spending the same amount of money we were on ads. So what were we doing? Same layout. We had the headline, we had the VSL, we had the application form, but right underneath that, I added another section for video testimonials. Now, why did I add this section? Well, what I did notice with split test number A was that we had a very high dropout rate on this page in itself. So I started testing out different things, started implementing strategies here and there, started implementing components into this page, but none of them bring as much results as adding a video testimonial page did here. So with that being said, what I just did is I added 6 very short clips of just clients that our client has worked with, speaking on the goods and speaking on their experience with this program in itself. And this ended up bringing the conversion rate higher as well, while also reducing the dropout rate. So it was a big success there. So step number 2 of this funnel, same kind of thing. We had the scheduling a call page. Right underneath that, one thing I did change that we did have in split test A was that in split test A, I was using video testimonials right under the scheduling a call page. But I think I changed it because I noticed that it might be a little bit more distracting for people to see it like that. I didn't want them to consume like minutes worth of content and then get distracted from the main goal of the page. And that's very important to understand because every single part of your funnel or every single page that you have needs to have one goal. And the goal of this page was to just get people to schedule a call. So what I did was I just ended up changing out the video testimonials for picture testimonials so that people can just give a quick scroll, trust us, and then resume the action that they left off it. Now for step number 3, it was a little different. I did end up changing it a little bit. So I just added step number 1 and step number 2, and I'll go over that. But step number 1 was the same video that we were running to set expectations. And then I added step number 2, which was a 30-minute process breakdown video. And there's a very, very good reason for this. So like I said, I was hopping on these calls and I was pretty much doing the sales process in general for a little bit before we had closers. What I ended up noticing with split test number A was the calls were moreover turning into consulting calls. They were turning into information and knowledge-based calls, which I didn't want. The call in general was for me to close them on the offer. But what was happening is people would ask me questions on the process. They would ask me questions about how this is going to work, what's going to be happening, is this for me? And so I saw a little loophole. I saw a little gap, not a loophole, a gap pretty much. The gap was that people weren't getting enough information. So right under the confirmation page, I did a step 2, which was pretty much intended for people to watch this process breakdown video. And if they didn't watch it on the page, I will send it later on in the emails, in the SMS for them to watch. This process breakdown video will literally tell them what we do, how we do it, how long it takes, why it's for them. Literally any kind of objections that they have in their head are pre-handled before the call so that we can frame this call to be a sales call, not an educational call, which a lot of coaches and creators struggle with. Now, the second part of the funnel was actually running the traffic source to this business. And our main sort of channel was Instagram. Like I said, our client wasn't anything big. He had an okay engagement. He didn't have 1 million likes, 1,000 different comments. No, he didn't have all that stuff. He had okay engagement that we could have built off of. So what we ended up doing is, and I did this in another one of my videos, I explained that you want to double down on the strategy that works for you. We noticed that Instagram is his main hub. He's getting a ton of engagement when it comes to people being curious on what we have to offer. So I'm like, you know what, let's curate our whole strategy around this and let's bring in appointment setters into the DMs that will manage all this for us and convert people into booked calls. And that's exactly what happened. You know, our setters started going ham, they were going crazy. But before all that, we actually changed up the content very slightly. We started posting more. We started doing more lead magnets. We started doing more comments and DM CTAs, all that kind of stuff so that we can just bring in more and more engagement. Our client was getting more views. He was getting more followers. And this was a perfect opportunity for us to convert traffic from our Instagram into booked calls. And so with our setters in the DMs, I think we had 3 at the time. But what they were doing was pretty much setting these appointments through Instagram with our qualifying process. So we would obviously reach out to them first. We would understand who these people are, break the ice. Then we would go into qualifying questions. Okay. And the qualifying questions are just trying to understand if this is somebody we can help or is this somebody we can't help. And this is where the second part of the funnel came into play for traffic. That is the 30 and 70 rule. So think about it this way, guys. Normally what coaches and creators do is they think everyone is a lead. That's not true. Not everyone you work with or you reach out to is going to be a lead. The reason being is because some people are just there for the time being. Some people are genuinely just not interested in what you do and they just engage for the sake of it. Okay? So 70% of people that are in your audience, you cannot actually help. You will never probably help them in your life, even if you have the best offer in general. But 30% of people in your audience will end up converting if you give them enough time, if you give them enough knowledge. And that's what we wanted to do. So we gave our setters the opportunity to clarify who the 30% is and who the 70% is through the qualifying procedure. And that's why all the appointments that we booked through our appointment setting process were going to end up being clients. And they did end up being clients. So with the 30-70 rule, we focused on the 30%. We let the 70% go to waste, but not in the sense of we actually let them go to waste. We just gave them maybe a lead magnet or what they came in for, and we just let them do their thing. If they liked it, they'll book in a call with us. If they didn't, fuck it. But yeah, anyways, from there, our appointment setters actually ended up booking the calls, and boom, that's what we did for traffic. That is alone what we did for traffic organically. But then we also did have stuff for ads that we ran as well. Now, before I get into that stuff, there are 3 best practices that we did follow for our appointment setters that ended up making these conversions that we had on IG to clients. I'm not no expert, but this is what worked for us. Number 1 is speed to lead. So be fast with your responses. Don't let your leads go off for too long. You want to be in the DMs really, really quickly. And this helped us maximize our conversions overall. Number 2, providing knowledge. So like I mentioned before, like in the funnel, split test number A, what I was noticing is a lot of people did not have the necessary information. So you want to make sure that, the people that you're hopping on with or these appointment setters are actually booking into calls have enough information. So what we made our appointment setters do was if someone was just on the fence of booking and we had the opportunity of booking them in, but the appointment setters noticed that they just did not have enough information, they would send them a video first, most likely the one on this page, the process breakdown video. And we would just make them watch that process breakdown video. And if it was a good fit, then we will send the book in the call page for them to book the call. And this ended up just making the calls for the closers way more simpler because they didn't have to break down the process. They just had to discover what the problem is, how we can help them, and answering any other questions before these people actually convert. So from there, we had step number 3, which was lead tracking. And I think this is so important in any sort of business that you run. When I say lead tracking, we made our appointment setters use so many different strategies that I use for many of my clients as well. We did on Instagram, there's labels, you can flag people, you can mark people. We use that strategy. So we were using tags pretty much on IG. The other thing we were doing is we were using a Google Sheet. So we were using a sheet that tracked how many people we DM'd, how many people ended up responding with a positive reply, with a negative reply, how many people ended up booking. And from there, we also did EOD forms so that they know where they left off and what needs to be done for the next coming day as well. And I think this is what really just made our process on Instagram do the best, is because I was on the setters' asses every single day. Now, ads-wise, pretty basic stuff that we were doing. I'm gonna go breeze through this stuff because I don't wanna share too much of the ads. It's very common knowledge. But anyways, we were running 2 sorts of ads for this client. We were running variation static ads and we were running client testimonial clips. Now, really quickly for variation static ads, I usually generally use templates for many of my clients and they end up performing really, really well. We did the same in this client's business. And the only thing that we were testing for his static ads is we were just changing the colors of the font. And it ended up, we found that one really converted better than the others and we just doubled down on it, okay? And then from there, the second part of it was we were running client testimonial clips, usually 40 seconds to a minute long of just the client talking, not our client, but the client's client talking about the problems he faced, the solution, the progress that he's made, all that kind of stuff. And all of this ended up going to a button called Learn More, okay? And the Learn More button, as you guys guessed, it would go to Split Test A or Split Test B, which is now just Split Test B because that was just a better performing funnel. So that's what we did ad-wise and organically and traffic in general. So let's get into the third part of it, which I think is one of the most important stuff, but that is infrastructure. Before I get into the infrastructure and what it is, I do want to break down something for you guys. Think of your business as a seesaw, okay? On one end, you have the front end of the business, and the other end, you have the back end, okay? And what front end just means is like, the things that are placed in front of the business. And then on the other side, you have the back end, which is client fulfillment, how you onboard clients, how you take care of them, how you maintain them, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you focus too much on your front end of the business, like this is where you spend most of your time, what you're going to notice is you're going to get tons of leads in the business. You might convert a lot of clients, but what's going to happen is your back end is going to lack. It's going to go down. What that's going to result in is clients disputing. Clients are not happy. They're not going to stay with you. You're going to ruin your reputation in the industry. A lot of stuff like that is going to happen. And if you don't balance the two, if you don't balance your front end and your back end, then your business is just going to crash. It's not going to perform. And I've seen this happen front end. I've seen for one of our clients, the closers leave, the setters leave because we were just not making enough money. And I'm being very vulnerable here because the back end was just not dialed in properly. We were spending too much time on the front end. So when it comes to balancing your front end and your back end, when you balance the two together, then only you can scale, then only you can handle more clients, and then only can you make it past any kind of plateaus that you have. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the infrastructure. And when I'm talking about infrastructure, I literally just mean the back end of the business. So I'm going to give you guys 3 strategies that we used for this client that helped us, I think, make it to this 20K per month mark and hopefully go beyond that as well. So number 1, we set top priority leads. Now, what do I mean by top priority leads? So as you know, we were running a call funnel, which pretty much just meant people were scheduling calls with us and our closers were actually taking these calls. Now, for our closers, we wanted to make sure that everyone that hopped on the call was framed properly, that was pre-sold, and didn't need information. So the call was not a consulting call, much rather it was a sales call. Okay. So what we did is we mapped out every single person on the Calendly that we were running and who had the call first in line, pretty much, if that makes sense. Whoever was next in line for the call was framed properly. So what we would do is we were running Slack at the time for our communications tab, but I set up an automation that pretty much allowed the setters to track who had the call first, how many hours away were they from the call, and what information was necessary to send to them. So that's the first thing we did. The other thing we did from there was we ran a testimonial page and a client interview was sent to these people. So a testimonial page was pretty much a page that literally fucking 20 pages, 30 pages of just testimonials, pictures, videos, everything in general that you can send over to a client that will make their brain explode. So we were sending this over to all of our clients that can binge watch our stuff. And 50% of people will watch it, 50% won't watch it, but then the burden is not on you. You understand what I'm saying? And then after that, in our email sequences and SMS sequences that we were running, we were also running a client interview. Now, I'm not going to go over our email and SMS sequences in this video. I have other videos on the channel that kind of go through that stuff. This video, I just want to break down the funnel in general. So that was the first thing we were running. We were running top priority leads. The second thing we were doing was we were sniping lead tracking. So like I mentioned before, for our communications tab, we were using Slack. The first thing I was doing was the follow-up was automated. So what this means is not the actual follow-up with the prospects was automated, but for our setters, we noticed that we wanted to make lead tracking for them more efficient. So what we did is every lead that would come through the gate and book up a call with us, we would track them efficiently. So if they were 48 hours away from the call, our setters would know. If they were 24 hours away from the call, our setters would know. And based off of that information, they can send them the necessary resources that they need to pre-frame them for the call. So the closers end up closing them and everyone in the business is making money overall. Okay? So it's a lot of teamwork that went into this kind of stuff. The other thing that we were running for our setters was a pre-call sheet. So setters filled this out to let the closers know who they're hopping on with. So let me just break this down really quick. Your closers don't know who they're hopping on with if you don't give them the information. And so to set the call properly and make sure that the closers get the most highest close rates they can, we wanted to give them that information. And so what we did with the leads that came through Instagram is we made the setters fill out a sheet that pretty much went over a variation of questions about the lead so that they can pass this on to the closer and the closers can then read up on it and know who they're hopping on with, map out the objections that might come up in the call, and pretty much just make the sales process seamless. So setters will fill out anything from what the problems are, desired outcomes, what the job is, how old they are, anything in general that they can map out in the conversation and pass it on to the closers. So that's also something that contributed to our close rate. And lastly, the last thing that we ran was just automations in general. So I'm not going to go over our automation. I'm going to gatekeep that information. But what I do think is going to be valuable for you guys is the sequences that we ran and why we ran them as well. So first thing we did was we ran up nurture sequences for people that ended up filling out the form but weren't qualified. The reason being is because, and I saw this in another video, there's really two types of buyers. There's type A buyers and there's type B buyers. Type A buyers are the people that just buy right away. They've watched you for a little bit, they trust you, and they're ready to roll. And then you also have type B people that don't end up buying right away. They need a little bit more resources to trust you. They need a little bit more time. It's called a sales cycle pretty much. So for these types of people, we wanted to run them through a nurture sequence. And the goal here entirely was just building trust. Okay. So we would send them resources, we would send them information and all that kind of stuff to just end up nurturing them so they can go through the sales cycle and end up buying from us in the end. The other thing we ran was a no-close sequence. The goal for this one was checking up on past prospects. So here's the reasoning behind that. People that you hop on the call, sometimes they don't end up closing, okay? Now, if they did hop on the call, that does underlie that they had an issue, they had a problem that needs to be solved. And if you couldn't solve that, then they're gonna go to your competitors, they're gonna go to YouTube, they're gonna go watch other people in general to just get a solution to their problem. And I noticed that I didn't want that to happen because if they don't buy from us, they're gonna buy from someone else. So what I did is I made a no close sequence, and this no close sequence was pretty much giving them the information that they needed. So I just thought of some ways that if a client did not close and ended up going on about his day, what are some questions that might pop up in his head? And let's make content around that. Let's make resources around that and give it to them so that they can consume that information, trust us, and maybe come back in the future to buy our product. Okay? So that's the other thing I did. And then from there, we just ran our backend CRM automations, email, SMS, all that kind of stuff. I've covered this stuff in the other video, so you can probably watch that there. But that is pretty much it, guys. That's exactly what we ran for this client that ended up letting us collect 20K cash in a single month. Okay. Now, for any coaches or creators out there, listen up. Okay, I'm going to be your treasure chest here. And if you are trying to build a scalable coaching business that ends up going to 6 to 7 figures without you spending time in the business, it taking a year or 2 years for you to get to that milestone, I want to give you guys one-on-one support with my team, me and my partner Omar, with our resources as well, so that you can get there fastest while spending minimal time in the business. So maybe you can enjoy a day like this in Hawaii with yourself, with your family, with your friends. But I want to make this dream a reality for you guys. And if you guys want to take the first step to make that happen, then there's going to be a link in the description for you guys to book in a call with us, where I'm pretty much just going to break down strategies, see if we're a good fit together to work with. And if we're not, then guess what? We don't end up working together, but I'll leave you in a better place with the resources, with the clarity that you need in your mind to build a business like this. So that's it for today. Ciao. See you guys in the next one.